Ah, thank you all for being here so much. Emily, I see that you showed up. Yay. And who else? Yeah, Ava, you came in while we were meditating. Katie Martin came in. Hi. Just want to hi and acknowledge everyone for being here. Yay. All right. So, as I was preparing for this particular Jumpstart January, it's become an annual event for, I don't know, 4 or 5 years now. I don't know exactly the years, but I had so much emotion preparing, so much love, so much connection. There was just a lot of energy for me, especially this morning. And I was thinking like, oh my God, I don't know if I'll be able to teach because I'm just going to be crying. So if I burst into tears, so I do, big deal. I mean, it is a big deal because I don't frequently burst into tears ever, and rarely when teaching. So if it happens, hey, maybe that's my New Year's thing. I don't know. I am really moved. Now, I will give you the tips of how to create great intentions. But as I read through what many of you wanted to get out of this particular Jumpstart January, it was about getting clear, about digesting, about sort of getting a context of how to move forward in the new year. And yes, we'll be doing some intention setting, and I'll give you those tried and true tricks. But there is a very unique, it's been a unique year, all right? 2020 was unprecedented in so many ways. So I can say, yeah, it was a little different than many years that we've been used to. So let's just look at that and say, and start from that as our entry point. Because with every practice that we do, we need to find our way in. And usually it's something that is really painful. Okay, I want to deal with that because it hurts so bad. Or something that's really inspiring to us. So they go, oh, that really inspires me. I want to learn more about that. So to me, this year of 2020 is a great way in for me. Let me read you some of the promo copy that I sent out. That way, I know what you all read and what you're thinking you're getting out of it. So I go, we made it through another year, woohoo. So now what, same old, same old? I think not. Now it's time to join together for this potent workshop to discuss how to bridge 2020 and its fire and gifts, and how to build on that bridging and creating pathways into 2021. So that's exactly what I hope we do. And I put in some suggestion gaps that might be happening: the gap between 20 and 21, the gap between intention and manifestation, the gap between outcome and expectation, the gap between attachment and letting go. I know I'm talking really fast. The gap between knowing and hoping, and the gap between self and other. And if you need me to resend you that promo copy, I'm happy to do so. And then in the course description, we talked about, as far as that intention setting, like, why do you want it? Is it worth the time and energy to attain and maintain it? And I guess to me, this bridging the gap is really going to be a lot about managing expectations and also understanding a little bit more about tirtha, which is a spiritual bridge or a spiritual crossing, because I think we are at a place where we can make a spiritual crossing if we choose to do so. And the other things I put in the course description was how to get on us faster. Hello, it's one of my favorite hashtags. Hashtag get on us faster and hashtag do it differently. Those were potent, and they've been potent, and I keep going back to those myself, so they work for me. And then recognizing the opportunity for lasting change, which would be transformation. Instead of just, I'm going to clean out this junk drawer and then just fill it up with junk again, how can I really recalibrate that junk drawer so it doesn't go back to being what it used to be? How can I not go backwards? I mean, we don't really go backwards ever. I don't believe that. But there's habits that we can keep bringing back. So how can we part of this today is to recognize that we have an opportunity to create some real lasting change on all levels and dimensions. And how are we up for the party of doing that? And then also, I'm going to invite people, if you want to share things in the chat when we have some time later, how your 2020 was. Because I know I usually would whiteboard things, we'll have a little bit more stuff, but I'm going to make sure we all have a chance to share a little bit, because it is about community and about connection. That bridge is about a connection. So just gonna check out the room, make sure no one else is trying to come in. Excellent. Feel free to flag me down or chat me up at any time. I do have my notes in front of me here, so I don't see everybody all the time, but I am looking at you right now. Yay, good. So let's talk a little bit about the bridge between 2020 and 21 and start with that gap. I don't know about you, but I know I've seen a lot of copy out there and a lot of people talking about, oh my God, 2020, thank God that's over. Now it was as if 2021 is just going to be boom, like on a dime, it's going to just become this fairyland of unicorns and hearts and flowers. And wouldn't that just be awesome? And yeah, but it's just probably, I would say, let's just drop that expectation to the floor right now. And we'll all probably be a lot better off in 2021. I'm not saying things aren't going to turn around, whatever that's going to look like. So drop that picture for 2021. We have an idea. It's going to turn around to what? Oh, that would be your idea to make your life better. But what about a bigger picture? Things are already turning around. But to think that we are thinking that we are going to be the ones to calibrate it for the entire universe, I would say start with the universe of yourself and start calibrating that turnaround right now. That's the one you can calibrate. That's the one you can turn around. This other thing is a bigger, slower, lumbering beast, and it takes a lot more time. And many of us don't have the patience for that. So we get frustrated when things aren't moving as fast as we personally want them to go. So that's the time to go inside and say, okay, what can I change in me right now, in my life right now, not the big world. One life at a time, one breath at a time, one choice at a time, one decision at a time, one bite at a time. That's how we digest our life. That's how we create change. So 2020, that was I like to do a little numerology. Does anybody have anything they want to say about that before I move on? Can't believe you're all on my screen. That's pretty awesome. Tabitha's coming in. Yay. Stockholm in the room. Sweet. Where did I go? Okay, great. Hey, Tabitha. Glad you're here. So I like to start out with a little bit of numerology just because it's fun. I'm not a big numerology and run my life with that particular methodology, but it is a fun thing to look at. And 2020 last year was powerful. It was a double number, both sides being equal. And so double the potency of that. It was also numerologically a 4 number, which is the number of the root chakra. So literally last year, and who knew this was going to come? People that took Jumpstart January last year, we talked a lot about the 4 and how we could build a foundation. Little did we know, we were literally going to remodel our foundation and literally have our foundations shaken. Pretty much what we knew as our normal, we were even calling it the new normal, getting back to normal, whatever. But the fact that we're referencing normal says things were not normal, what we were used to. So literally we had our foundations shaken during 2020. We excavated. We really got a chance to level it to the ground. A lot of stuff came up. I mean, enter pandemic, enter the awareness that Black Lives Matter came, brought to the forefront, and other bigger, so many lights were shined on those places in our corners that we just hadn't dealt with or weren't aware of, or didn't even know we had to look there. We didn't even know it was in, we didn't even know the fabric that we were participating in. But now a light has been shown on that foundation, that fabric of how we framed our world, how we lived, things we were doing consciously and unconsciously. And that's, I think, what 2020 was about. And as a result, do we want to just put it back together the way it was? I'm going to say no. We've had an opportunity to go in and really do some remodeling. So now we start remodeling. So that with the 2021, It's a 5-year, and I'm going to get to that in a minute. But before I do, I'm going to talk more about the tirta aspect, and I'm going to throw that in the chat so you have the spelling of it. I can just tell you Tirtha. I'll just do it anyway, just because I feel groovy about doing it. I feel very hip and happening when I use the chat feature today. Anyway, I feel hip today. Chatting today in the feature. Okay. Did I say that to everybody? No, I just said it to one person. See, that's how I go. I'm learning. I'm getting better at it. Boom. Tirta. Boom. Now, everyone. For those of you that got that personal chat, enjoy. Okay. So a tirta, it's a spiritual bridge. And because I think it's a bridge year, one where we're moving from a basically excavated foundation into recreating something new, I think it's important to frame our year in that we're connecting, that we're building bridges, that we're not separating, we're not trying to dissociate from things, but how can we rebuild? How can we rebuild? And for me, it's about rebuilding connection in myself and my externals and my internals and whatever else that you want to connect to. Connection to my practice, to connection to the people that I love, connection to my relationship with people, places, and things that I'm aware of, and also connection to people, places, and things that I'm not aware of. And now things have been leveled a little bit, like I've said. So how can I create more connection in that way? So a tirta, the concept of tirta in Sanskrit means a crossing over, a place of spiritual crossing, a place where the gods are close and our prayers are amplified. It's a place of transcendence, a bridge, a building those inner and outer bridges. And there's something wonderful about crossing rivers, state lines. I mean, people go over bridges. I know when as a kid, we go over a bridge and we go, oh, it's a bridge, it's a bridge. There's something kind of cool and symbolic about this bridge thing. Like because of this connection, I'm moving from this right side of me to my left side of me, or my inside of me to my outside of me. It's giving me a place to connect sides, a place of connecting sides inside and outside of myself. But also, how can I connect sides to stories? How can I connect sides to perceptions? So then I can be a participant and a player in my understanding of more sides than just the side here on my state line. I grew up in Iowa. So let's say I would cross a bridge over into Missouri, or I'd cross a bridge over into Illinois. I'd cross a bridge over into Michigan or Wisconsin. Now my geography is failing me. So but I'm crossing the bridge from my state of Jean into these other states, not only of Jean, but of myself. So we have that energy of that spiritual crossing. Let's see what else I want to say about bridges. Well, bridging gaps to me is like something that crosses and connects our two sides. And remember that we're coming from our place of duality. And when we're bridging, we're also, as the more bridges that we build, we're moving more into wholeness. Yeah. So we're less piecemeal. And as a result, if we understand and have connection to more aspects of ourselves, we learn to trust ourselves at a deeper level. The forces, let me go back to duality. You've got the right side. Let's go with the nostril, since we did some mental alternate nostril breathing today, the opening meditation. You've got your right nostril and your left nostril. And as we go inhale and exhale and inhale and exhale. So in one, out the other, in one, out the other. I'm building that bridge between the two sides of myself. I'm building this archway. And in many of the Sanskrit teachings and Sri Vidya and some of the other big spiritual practices, there are oftentimes an archway that you enter before you move into a sacred space. So as we do this mental alternate nostril breathing, we're creating an archway that we enter into our own sacred space. And it's because we have the right and because we have the left that we can find the center. So we don't want to say, boo, bad duality, bad taking sides. We want to say, yay, I've got a right and I've got a left. And both of these sides are helping me create that sacred space to enter into. It's defining a container. It's giving me a pathway into the center of myself or into the center of wherever else I want to go. Without that right side, boom. I mean, here's the right side trying to stay up on its own. Without the left side, it would fall over, and vice versa. So we need both of those sides to help us find the middle ground. Remember, these forces here that are presiding over both sides are presiding over not only chaos, but stability, equally without expectation, attachment, or judgment. Unconditionally, these two sides are holding each other up. Now, I think that's kind of ironic because you'd think these sides are actually at war, the way it's been presented oftentimes. These two sides are against each other, but we could reframe that for ourselves to see it's not against each other, but they are actually holding each other up because of this darkness. Darkness, the darker the dark, the more ability it has to absorb more light. So, and the darker the dark, the more we can see our light because it's contrasted with the dark. Also, the more light, the more we can experience and understand the dark. So these two forces together come, hold each other up, help us see both sides to the story of ourselves. In order to find our way and feel successful in ourselves and our lives, we need to bring our concept of left and right into a balanced state. Because as long as we're in duality, there's going to be 2020, there's going to be 21, there's going to be a left, there's going to be a right. There's going to be sides to the story. How can we bring them into a balanced state inside of ourselves? Now, I'm not saying we can bring them into a balanced state in the world. Okay, that's everybody's, we can't do, it's not our job to do everybody's work for the planet. Our job is to find that state in here, and that energy radiates out. So, 2020, bridging 2020 and 2021 was the root chakra. The other thing with 2020, hindsight is 2020. Well, we had some hindsight, and it sure brought out all that hindsight. It sure brought out a whole bunch of stuff, shining a light on things under the covers into a bigger, fuller vision. Painful or not painful, can we take this new information into this next year, bridging into this next year? This next year is the year of change and transformation. Again, 2020 was a 4. It's a very stable foundation. Boom. On the ground, you build your house. A 5 is not so stable. It's right in the middle between 0 and 9 before it starts repeating. I mean, between 1 and 9 before it starts repeating itself again. So it's smack dab in the middle. So right here, we're in the center. We're in the middle of that bridge right now. Hence more potency to transform. Hence more potency to expand and build this new reality of whatever it is we are going for creating inside of ourselves. So let that rest for a second. We're right in the middle between sides. There's no sides in 5. There's only a middle. If you draw a pentagram, right in the middle, you don't have all these sides. You don't have like the right side or the left side. You've got other types of sides. But yes, in the middle is what it all points to in the world of numerology there, and also geometry. Because it's a place of change, it's a place of instability. So to think that everything's going to get stable real quick in a 5-year, just drop that expectation to the ground and let yourself be a little bit more in this place of rebuilding. This is where our catalyst, we've excavated, so it's going to be easier for us to build anew. And before we were just putting band-aids on top of things, trying to change, but now we've unearthed some stuff. So now change is real lasting transformation. It's right at our fingertips, everyone. And I hope we say yes to that. I hope we say yes and take it to the self first. What points of view, what attitudes about myself and my life am I willing to look at and change? What choices that I've habitually made am I willing to say yes with full commitment to, or no and saying, I'm not, that really doesn't interest me anymore. am I really willing to change my perception about how I see myself, how I see myself in the world, how I see myself in my job, in my relationships? So for a 5-year, it's catalyst for change, for pushing boundaries, because we basically have taken our old container and shoved it aside thanks to last year. A way to explore. We can pick through the rubble and say, okay, I want to keep this. This I don't want anymore. I want this. I don't really need that anymore. And we can bring in new ideas. And this is where, if we can stay more fearless and have a little bit more adventurous spirit inside, it might be more fun. There might be some sort of freedom that comes from not having it be the same all the time. Now, this is not to say just throw everything out there and don't have anything the same. We need some stability. We need some framework for ourselves. Decide what the framework for you is that is going to really serve you. And if you don't know, just start trying some things. The personality of a 5 is an instigator and disruptor. Well, we've already had that. But the higher purpose of that instigator disruptor mind is to be able to shed the old and move into a contemporary and inclusive new state of being, one that holds a bigger picture, not only for self, but for other. Let's see if there's anything else about 5s I'd like to say. Well, in general, I would just say to have fun in a 5-year, curiosity is going to be important. So stay curious. Try to stay focused, because it's going to be really hard to keep from going from shiny object to shiny object. So find some things in your life that can be a through line, whether it's your practice, a relationship, your relationship to a person, place, or thing. But hopefully that relationship to yourself is the one I'm going to encourage you to really connect to and build that bridge to self even more clearly than you have in the past. And I know many of you have already been building that bridge over years or months or minutes of practice. So whatever you did in your life, it's perfect right now, but find that place of let yourself be that center line of clarity as much as you can. And embrace the uncertainty to allow ourselves to move into a new framework. And the harder those habits are ingrained, the harder it is to let them go and see that maybe there is another way that we can present ourselves in the world and to ourselves. So at this point, before I move into something else, I'm going to see if there's any questions, comments about this last year or something else. You can either unmute yourself or raise your hand, or either in the reaction or just raise your hand because I can see you all now.
Hey, Jean, it's Maria.
Hi, Maria.
So I'm looking forward to this class and this gap. There was something on Thursday, someone sent out and said, you know, I've had my 7-day trial for 2021 and I'll pass, right? Because of everything that was going on. And that kind of just stuck with me. But I like that, you know, we're going to try to get through all this, you know, instability and get into, you know, looking at what we can do for ourselves. Because last year, I know everybody's had a tough year. There were a lot of different things that went on in my life. And so I want to just get clearer about it and be able to move forward. Because as you were saying earlier, there's a lot of emotion. And so there have been times when I've been emotional, I don't even know why. And I know that it's just because of the energy that's just been around. And then I'm just a very feely person that way. So anyway, thank you for this class. That's all I want to say.
Thanks for that share, Maria. Anyone else want to add to the content, because it's so important? Everyone is so valuable.
I have just a couple of thoughts when you were talking about bridge that I thought I'd share. I thought it was interesting that we're not filling the gaps, we're bridging them. And so there's still space. And I thought that was just really important to vocalize. And then from my knowledge, when two sides are supporting each other and also two sides are pulling away from one another, it's called tension. Like that's the physics concept. So two sides pulling away from each other is tension, but you need that tension in order to create stability in the middle. You also need the compression to create the stability in the middle. So I thought of, in a bridge, there's always one single piece in a bridge that's called a keystone. And then my question to myself was, what is my keystone going to be for this year? And there's going to be tension in that keystone, a lot of it. And so that was the sensation. It wasn't comfortable in the keystone. So I'm not knowing is going to be my keystone. So thank you for that.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Keystone is one of my favorite concepts. So if with your permission, I would like to say a little bit more about Keystone for a sec. Yes, there's that tension, there's that compression moving into the two sides, and that pushes, that energy pushes back out into all the other places of that keystone arch, which it's like that one piece and then everything falls down. You know, what is that keystone? And we have keystones all of our body. You know, there's certain particular bones that we have that are keystone bones. So we are full of keystones, but there's also this place of rest in the keystone. If you can embody and just sink into that keystone as a place of rest and not doing, because it's doing so much and yet it's not doing anything visibly. It's just there. Once you get that keystone in and all the forces are buying into the keystone and saying yes to the keystone, there's a sense of relaxation in that tension, a sense of space in that compression that I find when I embody that sense of keystone in myself. It can be a place of rest and home. So just to add on to what you said, Cynthia. Anybody else have anything I'm open to, yes. I see Katie Godin coming towards the camera.
So one thing that stood out to me in the meditation was bridging the gap, or like creating the connection before knowing what you're connecting. And I don't know, like, I feel like there's such an element of trust there. And like, maybe that's kind of, I don't know, as you're talking about the keystone and like, kind of like feeling the ease or like the relaxation in that too. But I think that a lot of like fear then can also like prevent just like creating a connection without, like, I think for me, I don't know, just like knowing that it'll work out. And so, yeah, that's one thing I wanted to share.
Well, thanks, Katie. May I speak to that a little bit? If you're all willing. It's a really beautiful point, because yeah, how can I create a bridge when I don't know where I'm going? And I think that's part of the beautiful opportunity we have, is we don't know where we're going. And let's try to not necessarily know exactly where we're going with our picture, but maybe hold a space for the feeling that we want, or hold a space, be a little bit more spacious with our intentions this year, perhaps might be a way to approach finding those keystones. That it has to be this way, or I want to do that. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. I do that. You got some, you know, hard and fast things that you really want to accomplish, then yes to that. But moving into this idea of connecting, to know when is it time to start building that bridge. Maybe the bridge you're building isn't one about bridging it from that pile of rubble of our root chakra, let's just call that, when we've just leveled everything to the ground. But maybe the bridge is connecting to the pieces of that you leveled. And maybe it's a smaller bridge, because we are building bridges all the time. Maybe it's just not the big one right now. So what's my relationship to this piece in my root that as I'm picking through the excavation site? And then eventually you're gathering these raw materials, and then like, from an artist point of view, you're starting to see, oh, look at what I can create from this. I don't know about y'all, but I like to do the whole, what can I make out of whatever's in the refrigerator game? And then I just have I've got these elements, and what can I create that's going to be amazing? And that's my palette, you know, and I'm just not going to run to the store for an onion. I'm going to use whatever it is. And that's what we have right now. We've got our roots. What can we pick out from our root and say yes to that? These are my ingredients that I know I love right now. And can I start my art project from there? which will then lead me with more information, more insight to that next bigger bridge, no greater than or less than, but just looking at it like you don't have to know. You don't have to know. And thank God we don't know. Because where would be the fun in that? I'm just saying, we love a surprise. So where would be the fun in just knowing? I'm thinking, oh, I would like to know. Get more comfortable with the not knowing, with that day before your birthday when all the presents are going to come in, or whatever your story around getting excited about that surprise that you love. I know many people have been surprised in a not so great way also. So their surprise isn't always a delightful childlike experience, but it's here. So can we feel full in ourselves, reconstruct, and then allow ourselves to not know what that next surprise is going to be? Because if we start to build too fast, we're starting to create possibly something that could be painful down the line, because we just don't know how things are going to play out. But what we do know is what's happening right here, right now. So it's an awesome opportunity for us to build a bridge into a deeper sense of present moment. Thanks, Katie, for that inspiration. Anybody else have a thing they'd like to share about anything? Okay, well, feel free to pop in at any time as we move into the gaps. The spacious gaps that we are bridging and not filling. Thank you, Cynthia. So looking at these gaps, is everybody clear enough about the whole idea of change and being flexible and curious in a 5-year and not expecting things just to be put back together in a neat little way? Okay. And because we're going to be a little bit more creative with it, it might actually look better than we planned. So just keep that in mind. Those of you that are artists or creators in any way, shape, or form, I got to tell you, having been musician, artist, a whole bunch of different types of creative outlets in my life, there's something that's so magic about the mistake. You go to jazz improvisers, and what takes you to the guts, the beauty, is when someone makes a mistake and makes it work. So there's something really beautiful about the unknown, about the ugly, about the thing that I never would have done had this and stuff not happened. Those are such huge opportunities for us. And well, we had a pandemic. Let's just use that one. And so that was something that we probably weren't planning or expecting or even hoping for. I don't think anybody was sitting around and I go, a global pandemic would be pretty awesome right now. But it happened. We happened. There's an opportunity there for us to see, now what? Now who am I? Now what do I want? Now what's serving me? I'm just going to say that one more time. There's some magic that happens in the mistake or the unexpected. The thing that we never would have chosen for ourselves that got chosen for us is possibly our higher self saying, hey, here's an insight, and now see if you can run with that one. Just a thought. Okay. So moving on to the gaps. We talked about the gap between 20 and 21, the gap between expectation and outcome. So this is a gap that many of us have. If I do X, Y, and Z, I should get A, B, C. Well, who said? Some book, some authority figure, some teaching, someone I believed. Well, I'm here to say that just because you do X, Y, C does not necessarily get you A, B, C. It might get you A, B, C, but it might get you something else that doesn't even look like A, B, C to you, but it got you somewhere. So there's never any wasted effort that you put in. So even these New Year's resolutions, if we're going to look at that, because this is sort of a New Year's Eve workshop. So even if we're looking at New Year's resolutions, and let's say you fail, so what? So what? There's reasons. Big deal. You did it. You tried. All that work you put in on that is not wasted. There is no wasted effort of anything you've ever done. You may not know how it's grown you. You may not care how it's grown you. You may not even acknowledge that it's grown you, but it's grown you. You may not know how it's impacting your life right here, right now, or how it's going to impact you 5, 10, 20 minutes from now, 20 years from now. You don't know that, but know that you planted seeds in that effort, in that attention, in that intention, in that focus. And no matter what it looks like, it has changed you. And it was not a waste of your time. Now, did it get you ABC? If that's the criteria, well, that's a different story, but that's not the criteria I'm asking you to look at. I'm asking you to look at no matter what you decide, you cannot mess this up. I'm glaring right into your eyeballs right now. You cannot mess it up. I know it's like, get out of the camera, it's just too dead. So yes, can we loosen our picture on what we think we want? Can we loosen our picture on the energy we invest in expecting things to turn out a certain way? So, oh, I did all that work for nothing. Can we just take that out of our vocabulary? No, you did all that work for yourself at some level that maybe you don't even know why you did it, but it will pay off for yourself. Let's just get that. I did all that work for nothing. Let's just get that out of the picture. Let's just say no to that phrase this year and see what happens. Can we entertain the possibility that something more or bigger than our limited view might be at play? Are we willing to see ourselves in a softer light with blurrier edges? A more supporting light? Are we willing to see ourselves in maybe even a more supporting role from time to time? Our egos a little bit more supportive, a little bit more supporting role of our big S self instead of the other way around? Are we willing to step out of that supporting role for people and those of our personalities that are always supporting players and risk making our own decisions in spite of what others think? Can we let go of the outcomes as a measure of success, of worthiness, of lovableness? I didn't get A, B, and C, so I'm not successful. I'm not lovable. I'm not worthy. Just because the outcome wasn't A, B, and C has nothing to do with your worth, your lovable factor, or how successful you are or aren't as a being. Okay, that's the gap between expectation and outcome. Anybody have anything they would ask before I move on or say?
Jean, I love that piece about criteria because I feel like sometimes I'm so focused and zoomed in that like if you actually, I'm like, you can't do it wrong, but I'm like, I don't know if I actually believe that, but if you back up and take a step back, you can look at, okay, well, what lens, what criteria am I using that's making me feel like I can do it wrong? So I really like that zooming out aspect of it.
Awesome. Thanks, Tori. And good use of the word Zoom. Because literally we are zooming in a lot these days. And it's also good to zoom out. So yes, to zooming out every now and then, please. Oh, I don't know if I said it today, y'all, but thank you. I love you so much. This could be me bursting into tears. No, not right now. Later. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, let's go to the gap between attachment and letting go. Well, 2020 was a big one for that. So now what? What do I let go of as I'm picking through my root chakra rubble? What do I let go of and what do I keep? And why? Why do I let go? Why do I keep something? What are the criteria I have for hanging on to something or for getting rid of something? So what are the criteria I have for hanging on to things? I'm just going to name a few. You have your own, which I'm going to invite you to share after I go through the lists here. Why do I hang on to things? Well, I might need it later. That's a big one for me because I've thrown things out and then literally in 2 months needed that very thing that I didn't need for 5 years. Well, so I had to go buy another file folder, big deal, but all fine. Or something else. I might need it later. Or I'm not done with it. Well, then keep it. If you're not done with it, you don't have to get rid of it. If you're not done with something, you can keep it as long as you want. Nobody says you have to let go. I still like it. That's a valuable, that's sure. If you still like it, keep it around. Don't have to get rid of it. Or I don't want to deal with it. I don't want to deal with moving it. I don't want to deal with it. That's another reason why you might just want to let go of something. What are the, I mean, what are the, bleh. Yeah, that was a letting go one. I skipped, so sorry. So why would I hang on? I might need it later. I'm not done with it. I still like it. And maybe I'm hanging on to it because I don't want to deal with moving it. I'm just going to let it sit there in the corner because it's just too heavy. I don't want to deal with it. Just be over there. That stack of papers, that stack of junk mail, that stack of stuff, I just don't want to deal with it. So I'm just going to not deal with it. So what is my criteria for letting go? I'm bored with it. I'm done with it. It serves no purpose in my life other than just taking up space and clutter. I don't like it anymore. Get rid of it. I have something new to take its place and I need the space. So can we use this criteria in the excavation site of our lives right now? This will help us form those new resolutions, those new intentions. And if you've already pieced your life back to the way it was, is it the life you truly want? Or was it just the life you knew? Interesting questions. Anybody have any comments, questions on the gap between attachment and letting go, or criteria for either of those?
I'll say something about relationships.
Hi, Lauren.
Hi. Hi, Emily. Hi, Jonathan. I think there's, like, with the pandemic, everything, there was a lot of stress in everyone's lives. And so looking around at the people that I spend my time with or talk to, is like, I can't handle extra stress in that year. So it really made me reevaluate who I want in my life and who I spend time with. And it took a while to get to term. Some of it's just like good friends. It's just like, well, I've always just been friends with them. And it's like, is that good enough anymore? I had to kind of evaluate that. So that's what I would say.
Awesome. Thanks, Lauren. That's a big one. Yeah, I felt that. It's like, man, everybody wants to Zoom. At some point I go, I just can't do one more family Zoom right now. I kind of zoomed out. I'm zooming out. But yeah, thank you for that. Anybody else have anything that was hit me home? All right. Maria?
Yeah, just one thing, I guess it's just something that was with me. There's sometimes when there's an expectation of how long something should take. And when I was thinking about, when my mom passed away years ago, my mother-in-law just passed away over Thanksgiving. Someone said, if you don't feel like, giving that up, then don't. Just leave it in the attic. And one day it'll be the day that it needs to go or not. And it's okay. Or someone says, oh, in 2 years, you'll feel better, or in this time. And there is no time. And I guess that's the ambiguity for how I used to be a lot of everything needs to be on a timeline. Everything goes through, and causing myself my own stress by doing that. So I think with the, attachment and letting go, you just have to kind of feel your way through that, more so than trying to give yourself external timelines to do it.
Yeah. Thanks for saying that, Maria. Let's speak a little bit more to that, if that's okay. Yeah. It goes with habits too. How many of us beat ourselves up for habits that we have? I just gotta get rid of that habit. Well, you don't have to. You don't have to. When you're ready to let it go, you will let it go. I mean, it may take more effort than you have energy to break a particular habit, and you can list you've got your own. You know what they are. You know what your habits are. Parents, do you know what your habits are? Well, you're all parents of your own habits. So I would say, yeah, you do. Do you know where they are? Anyway, it's past 10 p.m. I know that's just really dates me, doesn't it? That's okay. I'm okay. At least I can date myself. So Lauren, that'd be my relationship aspect right there. So, so there's a thing about, oh, someone's coming into the room. Hi, Lillian. So when you have a habit and some people, I'm trying to break this habit. Like I used to bite my fingernails when I was a kid, and I bit them for a long time, but it wasn't until I was really ready to break that habit that I could break it. And who knows what forces came together and what amount of effort I had done trying to break it before. But at some point I broke that habit. So when you're ready to let it go, you will let it go. And you can keep trying, and don't beat yourself up for failing. It's still not wasted effort. And it's okay if that thing's in your attic, whether it's a spiritual, mental, emotional, or physical attic that you're just not ready to either deal with or let go yet. You don't have to yet. It takes energy and time for us to make change. Acknowledge that and love that about yourself. You know, you're not a machine, which is kind of a cool thing. Hey, Lillian, welcome to the room.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Hi.
Hey, glad you joined us. All right. And Allison, did I say hi to you? Anyway, you don't have to answer, but I just can't remember if I did that. Hi. All right, good. I'm glad. Yay. I'm glad you're here.
Thank you.
All right, let's look at the gap between knowing and hoping. Oy, why did I even put that on the list? Hope is really great for some. It can be a bridge. I think for myself, knowing with a capital K is better for me. If I know and I truly know I don't need hope, the more I know myself, capital K, know myself, then the more I don't need to invest prana in hope around how the externals play out. Because often hope has to do with looking for an external result to something. And I'm not saying that it's not useful. And I'm not saying it's a valid and amazing bridge. And I got to say, I've had conversations with people and these are like some people that are my intellectual buddies. Oh, well, you know, I can't, people think that in 6 months, everything's going to open up. We use COVID as the example again. These things are going to open up in 6 months and oh, don't they know, blah, 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 the science and what it really takes. And I'm going like, you know, so what? It's like if someone needs, if that's a lifeline for them, and I need to, let's look to 6 months because 6 months is what I can digest with things being the way they are, then use that, okay? The challenge is use hope as a way to help you digest it so you can get a bigger capacity to digest what's going on so you can get more into present moment. Use it. But when we lean on it and then it doesn't turn out and we get attached to the outcome and have expectation that it's going to be a certain way, then it can be really painful and hopefully not devastating. So use hope as a tool, but leaning on it could feed into those expectations of outcomes, could feed into our attachments of how we want things to be. So just use it as a tool. Know that others around you will be using it as a tool. You'll use it as a tool. We'll all use it as a tool, you know. But to remember that to be very loose with that attachment to the other side of the bridge it's making. So you're not attaching to something here and really anchoring into something that isn't even existing yet. Let it be loose. Let it be a way, a little life support system. That's how I look at hope here. I don't have to hope I'll succeed at my New Year's resolutions. Think about that. Oh, I hope I do it this year. I hope I lose that 10 pounds. I hope I paint that garage. I hope I do these things. I just was Lily got bumped. I had to put her back in the room. If you dig deep, you probably already know whether you will abandon some of those resolutions, even before you make them, even before the next excuse or the next shiny object. So maybe don't have those as resolutions this year. If you dig deep and you go, you know, I'm really not going to do that anyway. Why give yourself more fodder to beat yourself up? Unless, of course, you're just unless you can buy into all effort is worthy effort and there's no wasted effort, then go ahead. But if it's just going to be one more piece to tear yourself down, maybe don't do that one. If we go, I hope the next year will look like this, we have that. But I know that no matter what, I will love myself and I will continue to learn about myself. No matter what I hope it looks like, I do know that I will continue to love myself no matter what. And I will continue to learn about myself no matter what. That can help anchor my hope a little bit. So that's the gap between knowing and hoping. Anybody have anything they'd like to say about that before I move on? Alex, hi.
It makes me think, if we're talking about bridging and that center point between knowing and hoping, I think of the word faith, that connection of, it feels like the connection to the big S self in that center point where you can stay connected to something bigger than you, where you don't have to know, but you don't have to get attached to that outcome in that hoping. So for me, it feels like a place of faith that I can connect to.
Yeah. Thanks, Alex. Anyone else? All right. I think I've got one more gap that I mentioned. Oh, I've got two more gaps. All right, two more gaps. Anything you've seen the gap in my teeth? Just checking. All right. The gap between self and other, or insides and outsides. So use this this year of change, to help you become more authentic with yourself, to help you to let yourself get freer with getting honest faster with yourself, to see where you are now. Now that you've had, to see where you are right here, right now, and to see where you are now that you've had this year that's rocked many of our major habits. Start asking myself, is what I want what I really want? Or is it someone else's idea of want for me? Is it someone else's idea of what they think I should be wanting for myself? Or is it someone else's idea about what they would like for me? So this gap between self and other, you can do an entire workshop on that, so I'm going to keep it brief. But the idea of knowing self, being willing to see other, to be informed by other, but when it comes right down to it, can I go back to my keystone, my home, to make those decisions? By bridging that gap, I'm not taking other away. And sometimes I have to close the door on other. I have just too much to digest. Just like, okay, I don't need to be around. Right now, it's too much for me to digest being around this energy or this person or this situation. And then understanding yourself enough to know that you need to take that break to reconnect with self before you can connect with other. And you may choose to connect with that other aspect or not. And that would be some of what we talked about earlier. I'm just going to let that one rest like that at this point. Is there anybody that has anything they'd like to say about connecting between self and other, internals and externals? Great. If you change your mind, we're still here. And now we get to this idea of the new year, the gap between intention and manifestation. And many of you know that when I teach Shri Yoga, we talk about you know your practice is working for you if that gap between intention and manifestation gets smaller and smaller and smaller. So you become more quickly able to instantly manifest what it is that you want. Know that your intentions, no matter what they are out there, you will manifest all of them. It's out there. The universe is abundant. The universe is infinite. So it may not come back to you in ABC. Like if we do XYZ, we'll get ABC. But no matter what you intend, all your thoughts are little prayers. All your intentions go out there. That's what we need to drop the picture of how they're going to come back or how it's going to come back. Remember, they're going out through this big prana water. This is going through all of your thought forms, your constructs. They're negotiating their way through clear water or muddy water. The clear water of yourself or the muddy water of yourself. The clear water of the universe or the muddy waters of the universe. No judgment on any of clear or muddy. You do get your intentions no matter what. Remember we talked about time? Take the time frame off of what that is, what that looks like. Yeah, if you're going for something for measurable results within a 6-month period of time, that's a different scenario. And that's now you're going to create this program for yourself, hopefully not getting too attached to ABC is going to equal XYZ, but it might. It's okay to put a time frame on it. That might be that little bridge of hope. In 6 months, I hope I have this. The gap between intention and manifestation is about getting clearer with your energy. As I know myself better and I can release my attachments and I get clearer with what I really want and what I really, really want, and I get clearer with what I'm willing to change in order to get it, then that gap closes. Because I may want a career in Hollywood as a screen actress, but if I'm not willing to go out on any auditions or take acting classes or even get myself out there, I can want it all day long. Because now I've narrowed the possibility of me getting it to that someone's going to discover me in the street. And now that I live in a town of like less than 3,000 people, I'm thinking that's a pretty small chance of someone seeing me and discovering me on the street of Jacksonville. It can happen, yes, but I'm not willing to do much else about it. So really, I'm not investing much of my own energy or prana bucks or my Shakti into that dream of mine. So what are you willing to do? Are you willing to see what's in your way? How much energy do you have to go for it? So let's move into some intentions. Choosing your intention is key here, I think. I think just like what I've learned from teaching for the last, 40 years. Yes, that could be 40 years, 35 for sure. One thing that I've learned, it's more about the questions than the answers. Does the material lead me to more questions? Because that keeps me engaged. That keeps me not being a know-it-all. That keeps me curious. That keeps me evolving, growing, changing, being more in that space of what I would call unconditional love, that for me anyway. So when you're choosing your intention, it's the idea of asking yourself, what do you really want? Choose intentions that really are going to address what you really, really, really want in your heart. So when you get your list of intentions or resolutions or whatever you want to call them, and you don't have to make a decision on what those are going to be today, this is going to give you tools to go out and sit with it and let yourself pick through the rubble, pick through the raw material of your intentions and decide which ones for you this year are the ones you really are really going to bear the fruit that you're looking for. Are you looking for some sense of peace in your life? That is going to be a different intention than, losing. Most people, there's a whole, for at least I can't say most people because I don't even know most people. I know like hardly any people compared to most people. But I do know that growing up, every time there was New Year's, there would be these bombardments of lose 10 pounds after the holidays. So I'm just going to use the 10 pounds thing. Okay. So I don't know what most people want anymore, because I know the people in this room are not most people. You're you. So I acknowledge that, but just bear with the example. So if I go every year and think I want to lose 10 pounds, that's been my habit. And then I do really well and I lose like 6 or 7 pounds, but I never get to those 10 pounds. Or maybe I actually lose the 10 pounds, but I don't keep those 10 pounds off. Whatever my 10 pounds is, whatever your 10 pounds intention is, the one that keeps coming up over and over and over and over again. Do you really want it? I mean, if you don't have it by now, I'm going to say you probably don't. At least you haven't up to this point in time. And is it a burden? Is it something you feel like you have to try every year? And what happens if you just got honest for a moment and said, you know, I don't really want to put the work or the effort, or I don't want to do anything to change what I'm doing. I just want it to magically fall off. Choose a different intention, one that's worthy of your time, something that's really going to feed you. What do you really want? So do you know what you want? So what are some of your typical New Year's resolutions? Feel free to write those down. You can go, so, you know, just brainstorm for yourself. What are some of your typical New Year's resolutions? Do you know why you want it? So you can go look at your list of resolutions and say, what do I know why I want this one? Is it going to give me some stability? Is it going to give me a container? What's behind the intention? What's the energy behind the intention? What's the payoff? And then what's the downside? Like if you get it, what's the downside of you getting it? In other words, why don't you already have it? Because there might be a part of you that says, well, if you get this, then this bad thing will happen. So why? Let's go back to 10 pounds. Why do you want to lose 10 pounds? What would change for you if you lost the weight, or if you had a different job, or whatever you think is going to happen for you? Because remember, you take yourself with you wherever you are. One of your intentions, I want to see God. Let's go to the big divine one. I want to see, you know, an enlightened experience. Well, why? Why do you want to? Is it going to give you more power? Is it going to give you something to validate yourself to yourself? Is it going to give you something you can lord over other people and think you're so much more advanced than everybody else? Or is it because you're really building a bridge of connection? Why do you want what you want? Hashtag get honest faster with that. So why don't people stick to those resolutions? Well, they don't want them badly enough. They don't want to do what it's going to take to do it. They're not willing to give up the old, possibly. Maybe we're addicted to our own pain. We're drunk with our own war. And we just like to keep things the same old, same old. Maybe that's not the case. Let me see if there's other things I want to say about that. I'm just gonna, before I move on, see if there's any, just checking in with the group. Any comments or questions on anything so far? Anything, doesn't have to be on topic.
I have a question, Jean. When we, in other classes, when we've talked about the Sankalpa, you know, and we've gone through, and it sounds like there's similar questions that we ask ourselves trying to get, you know, to exactly what it is that we want. Is this similar?
Yes,
In what you're-
Sankalpa
what
in
you're
the chat. The other word would be Vikalpa, the thing that keeps you from getting it. Yes, it is a similar thing. Because I find, why waste our time? Why waste, I mean, not that we can waste our time, but why not invest and get real with what we're really wanting at this point in our lives, you know? So why not make everything moving into our place of what we would call highest thought? Why wouldn't we just put ourselves first that way? Because what are those other intentions? Are they worthy of your time? I mean, you're going to spend your prana bucks somewhere. You're going to spend your energy somewhere. So what's going to be worthy of your time and your beautiful effort and your beautiful transformation? Invest in those. probably you might actually get those because you really care about it somewhere deep inside of you. You really actually are invested. These external things, and I'm not saying we're not invested to external things, okay? They all take us somewhere, so there's no greater than or less than. And maybe that 10 pounds, losing that 10 pounds takes you to something inside of yourself that you never thought you could achieve. And that would be a huge landmark for you. So there's no greater than or less on anything, but it's getting real with what is that next step for you. As we pick through the raw material of our root, what is the next step of my next place that I'm bridging? Pick those. Anybody else? Questions, comments? Okay. Let's go a little bit towards, how do I know what I really want? So here are some exercises for getting real about what you really want. I'm getting really warm. I turned my heater on and now it kicked in. I like being warm in my house. That's great. It's winter here. That's what I wanted. So you know what I did? I turned the heater up. Intention manifestation. Boom. See, it really works. So here's some exercises for getting real with about what you really want. 1, make a list of what you think you want. Then look and see what part of you wants it. Is it my physical part, my emotional part, my mental part, my spiritual part? And then ask yourself, is it actually you who wants it or someone else's idea for you? Because I'm X years old, I should be at X place in my life. Well, who made that rule up? I mean, I never got that manual. I kind of did, actually. We all got that manual. But, or I'm at this place in my life, why don't I have blah, blah, blah? Or why hasn't blah, blah, blah happened? Well, is that my idea? Can I start from the place that I'm living my actual best life right now and move it from there? List why you want it. How will you benefit? How will your life be better if you have or achieve or learn blah, blah, blah? And maybe, like for example, say I want to learn French. Maybe, yeah, my life will be better just because I did something for myself by learning French. Maybe I'm never going to travel to France. Maybe I don't have any French-speaking friends, but maybe I just wanted to learn French. So maybe my resolution to learn French is just this sheer joy of learning French. It can be that simple. Just because I want to. And then you can, if you want to, if you like to do things like this, you can assign points or a value to each item and see how much, like how valuable those little intentions or those ideas would be, your list. Be okay with what you really want. Trust your own evolution. Because oftentimes if you want something, let's say you want something on the physical plane, the material plane, it's hard to move on until you've fulfilled that need. So allow yourself to fulfill that need. I've told this story and I'll tell it again about the wedding china. I was married once when I was 25 and I didn't do it traditionally. And I kind of wanted it traditionally. I was still in the fairy princess mode of all that, wanting all that dream and stuff. And that marriage didn't last very long, maybe because I didn't get to register for my wedding china. But then there were a lot of things that I wasn't true to myself and I compromised a lot. And I said, oh yeah, that's not important to me, but it really, really was. And I wasn't honest with myself and I didn't let myself have what I thought I wanted. 10 years later, enter my husband now. And I knew that I needed to do certain things, even though now I'm older. I was 35 at the time. I think I was 35. I'm just going to use that number. It's close enough. So I was 35 at the time. And people said, why are you registering for all this stuff? You already have stuff. I'm like, because I need to. I needed to give myself the freaking wedding china. I needed to have it. I don't know why. I just had to have it. And because there was a hole in me that wasn't full yet. So I did. Got my china, got my fairy princess dress, whatever I needed at age 35 to make myself feel whole in the wedding world. And yay, me. I got home, put the china away, and I still have the china. I still use the china, but I go, oh, I'm done. And I just felt this weight lift off of me. So like, I could break a plate tomorrow and I wouldn't be crushed. It was expensive china. I got myself the good stuff because that's what I wanted. Well, just by having it, I'm not attached to it now. Before, me not having it was such a prana suck for me because I wasn't full there. So if you're finding there's places like, it makes no sense. Like, why did I need that china? I didn't need that china from a Maslow's law place. I didn't need it to survive, but I needed it somewhere inside of myself for something. So instead of judging the crap out of myself, I just registered for it and got my set of china. Yay, it's beautiful. If I don't have it anymore, will I be crushed? No, but it freed me. So if there's something on your intentions that you want that might be similar to that wedding china, go get it, fill it, do it. No judgment. Okay, now those are the questions of exploring how do I know what I really want? So that would be on you to figure out that and then try some things. Don't worry about making a mistake. No effort is wasted. So just have some fun, play. Now the next question would be to explore why you don't already have it. And this would be that word that I put into the chat box, the vikalpa. This would be our resistance, our roadblocks. Why do I think I don't have it already? So one way to get to this is to list why you need to stay the same. Like, why don't I need to have that china? Well, I don't need to have that china because I don't want people to think that I'm this materialistic person, because I'm spiritual. I shouldn't want anything materialistic. So why I need to stay the same is so people, I think, are going to think of me in this place that actually would have been quite a lie, because I wanted the china. Another aspect of like, why do I need to stay the same? I don't have the energy to change right now. We had a pandemic. I'm exhausted. Maybe I don't have the energy to do anything big to change myself right now. I just don't. Then don't put off making your New Year's resolutions till you have some energy. And if you can afford the china, just go buy it for yourself. Don't try to manifest it. You did manifest it. Just go buy it. Be done. Move on. Another reason why you might need to why you might feel the need to stay the same is because it goes against someone else's opinion of what's right. Well, we are in a world in a time of paradigm shifts. And who's to say what's right for you, except, oh, that would be you. There's a societal or a peer pressure reason why you'd want to stay the same. If I'm too successful, if I'm too beautiful, if I'm too clear, will I fit in? Well, no. But do you fit in now? I mean, really? Do you really fit in now? Who in this room fits in? I want to see a raise. I want to see hands. Who fits in? Okay, great. I'm not seeing one dang hand. So no pressure. Don't worry about fitting in or not fitting in. Oops, Allison got bumped out. Now where'd she go? Maybe she tries again. Yeah, so don't worry about not getting your resolution because you won't fit in, because you already don't fit in. Yay for that. What a relief. And you know what? You're in a room full of people that don't fit in, so we all fit in but don't fit in. Bam. I just love that. And then the other question is, why you don't already have it, what bad things will happen if you get it? What bad thing will happen if I'm more successful than my parents? What bad thing will happen to me if I'm more blah, or if I'm less blah, or if I have blah, or what if I don't have blah? Because there's something in there that's keeping you from getting it, and it was because it's predicting a bad outcome. So part of the digging is to find out what that part is and what it has to say. So make a list of all the obstacles in your way, all the obstacles in your way, so you can see clearly now. I can't sing on tune anymore. That's my thought of myself. Anyway, assign points if you want to assign points. All right, I'm going to pause for a moment. See if anybody has had any questions about anything thus far on the what do I want? Why don't I have it? Pathway. Katie Martin.
Hey there. So I know you only just started these exercises, but one thing that I feel like I'm missing is because I know that I'm an emotional, intuitive kind of person, and I feel like I need an emotion to make it real. And these all feel like very intellectualized exercises, which I think are very valuable. But I think I also need something that's I don't want to say tangible, but maybe emotion, like an emotional feeling, like evoking an emotion that I can then tap into to trust. Because I feel like sometimes I think because I'm such a heady person, those things can be harder to trust than emotional or physical feelings that could then lead me to what I want. So yeah, I guess I'm looking for those exercises too, in addition to, not instead of.
Katie, could you give me one example of an intellectual thing that you might put for yourself or a fictitious friend of yours?
So like lists, for instance, that feels very intellectualized. Like this is a mental exercise. I'm going to list this out, as opposed to, it's hard to express what I'm trying to say. It's like, because it's kind of intangible, but it's a deeper, it's like a feeling that you get in your stomach or in your chest, or it's like, it's I don't know. Maybe I'm not being very clear.
No,
Yeah.
you're clear.
Hey, Jean, before you comment on that, can I just like bounce off that as well? So I love that you said that, Katie. I think you're not alone in this room when you say you're a heady person, but you want an emotion to like cling on to. Some work that I've been doing myself is like, I'm also a very heady person and I'm training in a heady like game. So how do I trust my intuition? Which I think might be exactly what you're asking, or like, how do I know when I know?
Mm-hmm.
The feeling, what's the sensation, what's the heady thing say, like how do I get clear?
Totally. Yeah, exactly. How do I know that? How do I trust what I know? Yeah.
How do I know if he really loves me? I got that one at least, sort of semi on tune. Anyway. Okay. Thanks for opening up that can of worms. Excited to comment. You don't. And you know how you learn? You start. These lists, these tangible lists, we start, it's just like when we're structuring an asana class, a yoga class, we start with the body. Yeah. Oh, I'm moving my arm. What does that feel like? Oh, do I feel different on two sides? Well, yes, as a matter of fact, I do. Oh, no, I don't. I don't feel anything. You know, we're starting with things that I can write down. Measurable results are a way in to helping us know the level of ourselves that you're asking, that I think you're asking about, Katie, which is that intangible part of myself. How do I start learning about that part? We start playing in that field now. We start playing with the emotional field. So we can take this list of, I'm going to go back to my list. So we can take these lists, and I like to start with lists because they're just a good way in. But if you go, what do I really want? You can take that into your body. and say, okay, let's just say I want China. What is my feeling? Is it fear? Or do I just get a sensation? Or do I go into my head? Do I start into justifying why I should or shouldn't have it? I mean, where does that land in my being when I say what I want? So you can start there and say, when I say bleh, or does just fear come up? Does anxiety come up? And then go follow that emotion. Like, why am I afraid? If this thing that I think I want, it's going to take me to those other questions, answers to those other questions. Like, well, why don't I have it? Because I'm afraid. Well, then why am I afraid if I don't get that? Because people will think I'm less than, or I'm not lovable, or I'll prove to myself yet again that I can't show up for myself, or whatever scenario we go. But that that emotional feeling is super important, because that is, all right, I'm just going to say, I'm kind of talking physical plane. Let's do some intention setting here. It's New Year's, but the real game that we're playing right now is we're playing and learning how to navigate our emotional bodies. Newsflash. That's what's really happening right now. I know I haven't really done a workshop on that one, but every workshop I do is kind of on that one. We start with measurable as a way in, but then take those things and feel, how does it land? And then follow those emotions. Where do those emotions take you and you? Now it's going to be more watery. There's not going to be, oh, there's a rock I can climb. There might be an ocean you can cross, but there's a current that might sweep you down, and you may not be able to judge how far it is to the other side once you're in there. Let me see if I can answer it a little bit more clearly. Let me look at this list and see if there's an example that comes in.
No, that really helped, Jean. That really helped. Thank you.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I think like thinking of it as a way into, it's not your final destination. It's a key. It's just a door opening sort of mechanism.
Because ultimately, what you really want, you may go through the list and come up with nothing, but you still know you want something. Well, that's your emotional body. That's your intuition saying, I don't know why, I just do. I don't know why I wanted the China, I just did. After like years of thinking about it and becoming a teacher and using my life as a wellspring of limitless examples, I figured out why I wanted it. But in the moment, I didn't know why I wanted it. I just did. Sometimes it's kind of cool not to know. So if you've got a strong push or inspiration or this, I want to express, that's not me throwing up. I know it looked probably like that on the but if you've got something bubbling up inside of you, allow yourself to follow it. You don't have to complete it. You don't have to go all the way down the well, but just let it take you to as far as you want to ride it. Let's get rid of this idea. I know it feels really awesome to complete things. Okay, who in this room has a history of liking things to be completed? Who's a completer? Okay, that's over half. All right, pretty much. And if you're not, okay, that's way more than half. So if you're not a completer, yay. Now, one of your things might be to complete something every now and then. But if you are a completer, lighten up. Just because we start something doesn't mean we have to finish every single thing on our plate. Thanks, Mom. I don't have to finish what's on my plate all the time. If I'm eating half my meal and I'm full and I go, I really am full. Not because I don't like it anymore, or just because I'm avoiding. That's a whole other scenario. But there's a thing with completers that no matter what, we just want to get it done, and we'll move hell or high water to make sure things get done on our timeline. Well, this process is hopefully setting you free as you take that emotional ride to say, I've ridden it as far as I have capacity right now. I can always get back on the boat. But I can take a break. I can go to shore. I can get a beverage. I can get a burger. I can get a salad. I can get a do a horseback ride. I mean, I can go to shore and get my land legs back. And then I can just jump back on that emotional river and follow it a little bit more. As we navigate these rivers, these nadis, nadi means river, yeah? So as we talk about the right side and the left channel, as we did in the meditation this morning, we did our mental alternate nostril breathing. Anyone else before I move on?
Yeah, I have. I wanted to offer an example about my own experience.
Yes, Lillian.
So I think I first listened to the similar talks from Eugene many years ago, like in my 30s. At that time, I was struggling with my work. At the workplace, a lot of times you kind of have a timeline, like, okay, 2 years, you get promoted to the next level. That's like an expectation you give to yourself, and your management give to you, and also like a peer pressure kind of thing. And if someone like me, I did not get a promotion at that particular time frame, I got really worked up. I got upset at myself. And then I think it helped me when I go to your New Year's talk uh, to understand whether getting that particular promotion, as an example, actually is beneficial to me, or is that just an expectation that someone give to other people? Or is that relevant to my growth at all? Is that helping me to enrich my life, right? But what I realized was it's not. It was giving me much more pressure than I deserve. So that was one of the things that, coming to this kind of talk helped me to see clearly whether that expectation was that helping me, instead of something that is maybe helping the company or someone else give to themselves as an expectation. So yeah, and also throughout our lives, we have a lot of expectations on us, right? Being a Chinese, at a certain age, you want to be a mother or a wife, and someone in the 30s, one of my cousins was being called an uncle in at his workplace, meaning that you are in this senior level. But I feel now at this point, it's someone else's path. I don't need to follow. I make my own path, whatever that that works for me. So yeah, just want to add that.
Thanks, Lillian. Yeah, excellent. All right, so moving on the train here. So we've talked about how do we know when we really want it? There's a list, then also go and feel. Let yourself feel. Just feel. And then go with that and see what happens. You'll learn. You're learning how to hear yourself. You're learning your own voice. Yeah. And then we go to explore why we don't already have it, because that will give you, not because you should have done anything differently, it's just giving you some insights of things that you might need to address in order to make room for it in your life, in your physical life, in your emotional life, in your mental life, and in your spiritual vibrational life. And then what things do I think I need to change in order to achieve my goal? And as we go through this list, you'll be thinking of actions. Do I need to do things differently? Do I need to shift my attitude? Is it an attitudinal shift? Maybe you don't have to do anything. You just have to say, okay, I'm going to reframe it to non-judgment, or I'm going to reframe it this way. And then you can assign some, if you like to do it this way, if you like that physical thing, you can assign some impact points to these items, whether the actions or attitudes, and see what is it really, how much energy, how many prana bucks is it going to cost me, and how many prana bucks do I have to invest in this change of attitude, in this, or these change in actions. If I want to give up chocolate, that means I have to not put chocolate into my mouth. That means I have to invest in me seeing this. This is not chocolate, it's a little lipstick, but let's pretend it's chocolate. If I see the chocolate, instead of just going, I'm eating the chocolate, at some point I have to invest energy into putting that chocolate down and walking away, and then dealing with all the parts of me that are screaming for a piece of chocolate right then. Do I have energy to do that? To address all the kids inside of the household of me, the kindergarten of my life, that are going to be screaming for chocolate? Do I have the energy to say, no, we're not doing that right now? And do I have a way to entertain them so they don't feel starved or neglected? Do I have the energy to change that relationship inside of myself? And maybe I don't, and maybe I do. Or do I have the energy to change my attitude about myself as I walk by the mirror? Instead of thinking, wow, you're getting wrinkly because you're older now. Instead of looking at that, can I look and say, like, wow, look how much more radiant you are. Look at how much more centered you are in yourself after all these years. If you're going to pick an age as one, or pick whatever one you want for yourself, you all know what your little sticky spots are with yourself, or how you see the world. Or instead of jumping to how screwed up everybody else is, can I see them as part of me? Can I see them as something to bridge to? Can I see myself and give them the benefit of the doubt for just a second, and say, no matter what it looks like to my educated, holier than thou eyes, that person, place, or thing is doing the best it can do, given the toolbox it has. I may not agree with it. I may not like it. I may get grossed out by it. But if there's a shred of me that can shift that attitude inside of myself, then I'm not wasting a lot of my prana on something, feeding some beast outside of myself, where I could be feeding my bigger picture, my sense of self-love, my commitment to non-judgment. And then get into that question of, like, what am I really, really willing to do to shift, to change? And remember, one of your hashtag get honest faster might say, I can't shift anything. And then lighten up, move on. What are you really willing to do? Because that is what you will really do. So stay in integrity with yourself and build that trust. This goes to Katie Martin's thing about trust. If we're flopping all around, so I want this, I want that, I want this, I want this, oh, I want this, I want that, and we're just flopping around from thing to thing to thing, and we're being pulled to this side and pulled to that side and pulled to this story and pulled to that story, we might not be building enough trust in ourselves. So part of a practice, like fulfilling an intention or deciding to not do it, is to build that trust in self. And whatever decision you make, knowing that decision came from you, and that's the one you're going to stand by. So as you strengthen that trust, it strengthens your ability to be there for yourself, and trust that no matter what the world is doing, you're going to show up for yourself. And sometimes it's a long process to figure out what that even looks like, but it's worth it. You begin to as you start to get really honest with what you're willing to do, you begin to prove to yourself that you honor your commitments to yourself, and that the promises you make to yourself aren't just smoke and mirrors. So stop promising that thing you know you're not going to do. Like if I go, oh, I'm not going to eat chocolate tomorrow. Let's just say that one. I know I'm lying. And then when I eat chocolate the next day, I just proved that I lied to myself. And now I'm breaking down that trust inside of myself. Start small. It's okay to start small. Get some success. Some exercises or questions you can ask yourself about getting real about what you're really willing to do is just look at the list of what you're willing to do. Look at the list of what you think you're going to do. And then look again and say, am I really willing to do those things differently? Or are you just really waiting for the miracle that you don't have to do anything about it? And then ask yourself, is your want or desire worth your time and energy? Do you still really want it? Do you have the time and energy to put in on that project? And if you don't really want it, be okay with walking away. And know that once you have achieved something, go past it. Let's say I get the china. Now, do I have a place in my life for the china? Do I have the energy it takes to maintain that china? Let's say it can't go in the dishwasher. Am I willing to take the extra effort to wash it by hand, to dry it, to take care of it? If I want this big life of fame and fortune, and I build this big life, do I have the time, willingness, and energy to maintain that big life? If I take those 10 pounds off, do I have the time, energy, focus, do I have the desire to keep those 10 pounds off? So just getting something isn't like just another notch on your board. Yeah, check, did that. Unless that's important, then do it. No judgment about the checks on the board. But if it's something that really, you really want, to get honest with, do you have the energy to maintain it? Okay, I want a puppy. Now, do I have the energy to take care of that puppy? I get that puppy for Christmas or holiday or birthday. Do I have the energy to keep that puppy? What's it going to take to keep a puppy? To raise a puppy? Your projects are your puppies. All right. Any questions or comments so far? Who wants a puppy? Yay, I want a puppy. Sam Saden.
Can we add your projects are your puppies to the Genisms deck?
Let's do that. Your projects are your puppies. I'm writing it down right now, Sam.
Oh man, I got a puppy for my birthday, and I can tell you that it's a lot of work. I got the puppy, and then I had to really ask myself what it completely disrupted my whole life, right? And it's like, did I actually really want this puppy? And the answer is yes. But you know, you have to be careful what you ask for, because I really, 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 really wanted the puppy.
Oh, Alex, that's so great. And you know what? These puppies that we get, you said how it really disrupted your whole life. This change that we're seeking is going to disrupt your whole life. Are you ready? Yeah, thank you for saying that.
I love all the pieces that you've been talking about, Jean, and something that I've been thinking about through this has been like I've had like all of a sudden this intensity where it's like I have to buy a house, like I need to buy a house and I want to own something and root down, and then thinking about why is that? And it was like, oh, because I want stability. And then realizing what my intention is, it still doesn't take away the fact that I want the house and I want to buy a house. But I also like have a new realization that I have a new intention set for that. And then I also have like a different direction of like, where am I missing stability? How can I build that stability when it doesn't have to be driven by a goal that I still want to keep going with? So I like all of that.
Nice. Thanks, Tori. Yeah, and then once you get a house, then you got to take care of that house. Sometimes being a renter is pretty awesome. Anyone else?
I don't really want to bring up the dark side, but I'm going to anyway. But I just want to say there's also a dark side to intentions, and it's kind of getting back to ABC doesn't equal XYZ. So I'll give my own personal example is I also wished for my foundation to be really excavated. That was my intention. And like to really go in and have it removed from myself. Like that was my intentions. Get in there and look at everything that you believe and choose and have the opportunity to choose whether or not you want to continue for the rest of your life this way. And then I got a really bad back injury and like a lot of things like fell out of my life. So it wasn't just in thought. I just want to warn, I don't want it to be a fear thing, but I do want to like put this out there. If you've been practicing for a few years and you've shortened the gap from intention to manifestation, you will get what you wish for. So careful what you wish for is a good adage. It will come in whatever way it needs to for you to learn the lesson.
Yes, like I started, thank you, Cynthia, for that. And it's not really the dark side. I mean, when you're in the middle of your project, it can be not so fun, for sure. But remember when I started the workshop about you get all of your intentions? So be fluid with your timeline. You're not in control of that, the big one. No, and that's why it comes down to just really getting clearer and clearer with who you are, because there's a lot of forgiveness for our ignorance. I'm not saying that we're all ignorant people, but we are, thank goodness. So there's a lot of forgiveness when we make statements and thoughts and actions that our heart knows we don't really mean. But they're still out there, you know. That mean thought that you had about someone was felt in the universe. That judgmental picture that you had, it was felt in the universe. The universe is huge. And how much energy went behind that thought? I mean, look at a baby, you know, they have lots of feelings, maybe thoughts, I don't know, probably not, depending on, you know, it's been a long time since I was 2. Or maybe I was just 2 yesterday, I don't know. But they have a lot of energy behind what they want. And like maybe they're full energy to manifest someone giving them that hairbrush so they could bonk the table with it or something. But there's a lot of forgiveness because there's not a lot of experience around something, which is growing up and growing into ourselves as conscious beings. Many of us go through phases of when we start to get on this path of self-exploration and self-awareness about, yeah, and look at what a manifester I am. And like, oh, I'm so powerful. I'm manifesting all this stuff and blah, blah. Yeah, and you're also manifesting a lot of stuff that you don't even know you're manifesting. Because it's not like just you get to pick what you're manifesting. Everything you're manifesting. Again, not to scare, but there's a lot of forgiveness. Like, you know, the baby that I've used this one before. This is in the Genism deck, by the way, Sam. If you poop your diapers, you know, it's really cute until it's not cute to poop your diapers anymore. It's really cute at the beginning. Oh, my baby's first poop, awesome. It's like you just start, oh, look, it's green or whatever color it is. It's like you get so excited about that poopy diaper and woo, and it means everything's working. And then, you know, about age 5 or 6, maybe not so fun anymore. So with us, it's once we know about not pooping our diapers, it's time to stop pooping our diapers. Once we know how powerful we are, that might be the time to start moving in that direction gently and lovingly about owning it from a place of humbleness and gratitude about the power that we hold in ourselves and start to be a little more honest with ourselves about what we're throwing out there and why. And if we do throw something out there, go back, trace it back to the home. What part of me felt hurt enough to hurt? What part of me felt neglected enough to demand this type of attention? What part of me needed me? What part of me didn't I show up for? And go home. And even if you just put your hands on your heart and cry, just let yourself sink into yourself. Now, this is one low-hanging fruit technique. There's other stuff, but this workshop isn't really about that necessarily, but it does the intention and the manifestation part. You are manifesting. So if you're not getting something that you think you want, there's probably a reason. You may not know what it is. It's bigger than your conscious mind. And if it's curious to you, it's time to go down that path and start unpacking it piece by piece. And sometimes there's more in there than we think there is, or we think there's more in there than we think there should be. But that's not for us to decide how much should be in there or shouldn't be in there, because it's not a quid pro quo. It's not XYZ equals ABC. And that's an individual journey. It's not like I can give you the toolbox. I mean, I can give you tools, but you got to put them in your own toolbox and just start using them. Anyway, any other questions or comments? Tabitha, I see you leaning in. Is that you leaning in or not? We're just taking.
No, it's just me rolling around.
Okay, great. Michelle, did you have anything? Where'd you go? You're still muted. It's okay, take your time. Just relax.
Oh, there it goes.
Yep.
I've been kind of, hold on a second, getting a right spot here. Forgive me too, there might be some construction noise in the back. But I think just listening to everybody, I've, over the years, have seen like a lot of, or had times where I had certain intentions, and I think just that whole piece about being true to yourself and, listening to that intuition really comes back up for me every time, to follow through and to find like that bridge that, whatever I'm working on. So I think that's something that can be really hard to listen to, and we question it a lot. But I think I'm finding as the years go by and the practices and the experiences happen, that comes up more and more, and I'm starting to find a little more, I think, confidence in that. And that makes a big difference, I think, with following through with any intention that we have going forward, And 2020 was hard, but, in a lot of ways, I think there were things about it, like you said, that needed to happen, especially for me personally, and maybe, even globally too. So I think just, again, listening to the inner voice is coming up more and more, especially as I sit here and listen to everybody talking and the things you've suggested, Jean. So thank you. And thanks for asking for my input too.
Yeah. I know that. Anyone else before we break from do practice?
Yeah, Jean, it's Tabitha. I'll actually lean in this time, but just building on what Michelle said about kind of the inner voice, I think something that comes up for me from the practices is the no wasted effort. And so when you ask the group who's the check everything off the list and check it twice, that was me many, many years ago. And then I got into that flow of being able to set things down. And I think the no wasted effort kind of supports the idea of not having any regrets about setting something down or what could have been. And then that idea that you can always pick it back up, right? If you're really listening and connecting into that inner voice. So I love those two together for me are really, really like my keystone, like the support arches, I guess, for me. Thanks.
Thanks, Tabitha. Anyone else? Sam.
I have a question maybe you could speak to briefly, just about how to be with people and try to relate to people who are acting out of what they feel is like a righteousness of like they have this right to feel and do a certain way, even though it's like manifesting such negativity in the world, without like being judgmental and like trying to change their, you know, their whole thought process and actions. I'm just like, there's so many examples of people putting such negativity out and feeling such comfort and righteousness with that, and it's like I'm having a hard time figuring out how to deal with people, and often I just don't. But like, you know, I have certain friends who, you know, are just spinning this negative shit that we've all been in, and it's like, you know, yeah, I'm just trying to figure out like my own way of how do I get through that, if, and I mean, I know it's not my job, right? But how do I even be with it like internally, you know, when like people who I care about feel totally great about being, you know, super negative and judgy. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a big topic. You don't talk too long about it, but I mean, it's been very alive for me of trying to just stay positive with these people in my mind and heart. It's really hard.
Yeah. Yes. I'll be, well, the answer is
Survey says excommunicate, unfriend. No.
well, those are all options.
Yeah.
I'll just say how I deal with it myself. And can be a starting point. I know everybody has their mechanisms. One, as I recommit to seeing the divine in everything. And then I commit to, and goes back to Katie's about the feeling in the body, the emotions. I say where, even though I may look like I'm not judging as I'm sitting there quietly in the room, as I'm hearing things come at me that make no sense to me, or I feel maybe what you might be feeling in the room, Sam, with some people. Even though I'm sitting there quietly pretending I'm not judging, I can feel in my body that I am. And I go, okay, just get real. You're judging. So now what do you do? What do you need to do to stop judging right now? And believe me, I've done a lot of practice on this over the years. So I'm just going to give you this. So if you're not nailing it out of the gate, don't worry about it. It's a place to start. Okay. It's an entry point. It's a gateway. And then I get really real with my judgment and I say, okay, what do I need to be true here? Like, why do I need that to be true? And then of course the part of me that's judging, well, because it is, it's fact. It's fact. I'm going like, and that's fact for me. And it may be fact, but through other lenses, it's clearly not fact. So then I have to own my own polarization attitude in there about what I think is real and fact versus what someone else thinks is real and fact, because they think just as much that their point of view is real and fact as I do, even though I think I have the right facts. Well, if we're going to play that game, we're never going to walk through the gateway. Because no matter what I say, I can't prove to this person that there's anything, because they may not care. Just like I honestly don't care what they can present to me, because I'm not going to believe them. So what I can do in that moment is get myself as neutral as I can. And I'll say things like, well, I've actually said stuff like this, saying, look, I'm not trying to say you're wrong. I'm just playing devil's advocate a little bit here and just putting out another point of view. And I'm not taking a stand that I'm right. So I dissolve my need to be right in that conversation. So I'm not taking a stand that I'm right here. But this is another point of view. Others think this. So I don't own it myself. Like I'm owning it, I'm not owning it. I go more toward center. And then they say, well, blah, blah, blah. And I go, well, I haven't, in my experience, that hasn't crossed I don't experience that in my life. Well, this is what it is. And I go, yeah. And I said, it's interesting because I have also evidence to show something different. So is there source material that you can show me? I said, I would love to. I just am going for truth here, just like anybody else. So is there source material that you can show me that shows me that is, where's your sources there? Because I read it off of this medical journal or something. And I said, so this is what I'm taking as the truth, but I'm willing to look at what your source material is. Of course, I know no one's going to show me source material. No one yet has come back to me and shown me source material on anything, really. But what happened in the conversation is there was a softening and a less needing to be right as the dominant tone, and there was more space in it. Did I convince anybody of anything because my side was so right? No, but it also became not my job as I took myself out of needing to be that person. But it started with me really owning my own judgment and my own need to be right. And if I can get off my need to be right and say, okay, this is just a point of view, it might open the discussion. It may not work for everybody, but it's at least another thing to try. Maybe that'll help. I don't know. Sam, was that good enough answer for now? You're already doing that stuff already?
Yeah, and I've just been refraining from getting sucked into certain platforms that aren't conducive to like open, direct discussions. Like, yeah, it just doesn't seem like the majority of Facebook thread comments are actually a viable way to change anybody's mindset. So I don't even bother. I'm like, okay, this is like a complete joke of a discussion. So why even go there? That's the attitude I've adopted. But I have certain friends who have had direct discussions with who believe some crazy shit, and it's a very emotionally hard. It's yeah.
And I also have friends and relatives that don't see the world in the perfect way that I see it, of course, because, but, and I also feel pain around that. And I ask myself the questions, can I be friends? What is it going to take for me to be friends then? And is my whole relationship based on this point of view? So I'm just pulling back, zooming out, getting bigger and bigger, getting more off of my need to be right and more into I'm presenting another point of view without attachment. It's the attachments, man. And I think some of the pain that I feel sometimes is as I'm losing my attachment to what I thought was true and what I think is right. Because that's really putting me in touch with how much I have an opinion about something, which is, it's still an attachment and it's still a judgment. So I'm getting to look at mine that way.
Yeah, it definitely seems like an exercise in non-attachment to choose to be friends with people who support people and policies that like can directly harm you and your loved ones. I mean, that's like, okay, totally unattached to that and still be friends with it. I mean, that's a very personal decision, and it's been, I would imagine each person here has had to come to reckoning with that at some point this past year, especially.
It's tough. Katie Martin.
Yeah, Sam, I wanted to talk a bit on this too, because I think it's coming up for all of us, and whether it's people we know or don't know. I think, and back to the connection point, I feel like for me to connect with other people, I have to be compassionate towards them, even if I don't agree with them. So the way in for me is trying to understand what they're afraid of. Because usually those opinions are coming out of a place of fear of some sort. And then I can really relate to that person, as opposed to a policy that they believe in. And I'm like, they're afraid. And then I relate. I'm like, I'm afraid too. We're both afraid. We're afraid of different things, but we both have fear. And maybe it's fear of the same thing, fear of annihilation, fear of, it's just, but we feel like that annihilation is coming from different places. So actually so I guess what I've been trying to do is connect with people on a more basic level. And that's, then people go, well, why are you being compassionate? If you're compassionate towards that person, then you're not putting forth something positive in the world because you're not standing up for what you believe in. And I'm like, well, do I really want to be so angry at all these people? How is that putting out something good? Like, do I really want to walk around in a place of anger? No, the answer for me is no. So yeah, but I think a lot of us are feeling this right now. So anyway, that's my input.
Thanks, Katie. And, there might be some people that really need to walk around in anger. So there's no right or wrong way of being here. So just, you decide for yourself what you need to do given who you are and all the people, places, and things that have brought you to this moment in time. There's no wrong decision you can make. It's really all about getting to know you. Because for someone, getting angry is going to be their highest thought because maybe that's something they've never done before. And that's them standing up for themselves. So, you need to feel really, it's just helping you to get to know yourself. That's the gift. That's the gift. Look at it as each time that interaction happens, and they can be exhausting. Look at it as a gift, and you can stay in it as long as you can. And when your capacity is over, get off the phone, disengage. It's not always the right time because you got to come in full when you're being, when you're going to go into a marathon or some sort of big game or a race or some sort of test. You want to come in rested. You want to come in fed. You want to come in full. You want to come in with your whole self. These types of scenarios. So part of it is learning how to feed ourselves, to get the rest, to nourish ourselves so that when we can go into these challenges, these games, these trials, these scenarios in our life, we can bring our fullness, see what our capacity is, know when we're starting to go, okay, I can't go there anymore because I'm going to start going back to my old patterns. And then that would be the time to pull it back in. Get off the horse before you fall off the horse, Come out of the balance pose in Trikonasana, in tree pose before you fall out of the pose. That could also be a game. Know when, okay, how long can I hold it? How long can I hold it? And then can I come out with grace? Maybe practice will all be balanced poses. Everyone's going to leave. No. Anyone else? Because I do want to wrap up but I also know this is a huge discussion and I'm happy to have it. And maybe if not today, feel free to email me and we can have it and do another maybe group on something like this for a shorter little workshop or something. I'm happy to facilitate this type of discussion because I learn from it too. And I've been growing. I'm still 5 feet tall, but I'm growing other ways. Anyone else want to say, share? Okay.
So,
All right.
yeah,
Yes,
I'm
yes.
sorry. Just one last thing. I do agree with everyone's opinion on this, and also, I just want to bring up about duality. You know, the right versus wrong, and use the practice of yoga. The observer, right? Being the observer. If you feel like you have the angry about something, be the observer instead of be the doer, right? But of course, it's a big topic. So.
Thanks, Lillian. Yes, that always helps for that emotional pump that goes into the blood that you have to deal with your anger hangover later if you're not the observer. But that's also how we learn. So, all right, let's take a few minutes break. Go pee, get your mat out, and then we'll do a bridge building practice. And then you all will have access to these recordings for a couple of weeks. I will be emailing you the private page and all that kind of stuff. So you'll be able to tune in. I'll be back in a minute.
Thanks, Jean. I'm gonna sign off just because it's 9:30 my time, but I'll pick up the recording and do the practice.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye, Tabitha.